This is Talib Kareem, and welcome to Abe for President, your update on what's happening here in Washington, D.C., relating to the stimulus checks, the unemployment checks, and the other monies that the federal government has been debating in order to keep the United States economy afloat during this national and, in fact, global pandemic. This is Talib Kareem, CEO of Abe Legal. I'm a lawyer with over 20 years of experience practicing law. A lot of it has been spent working on and off Capitol Hill, in particular as a senior aide to members of the United States House of Representatives. So tonight we're going to delve into two, or actually four questions. We're going to answer four questions for you, right? First question is, how much money have workers received since the White House executive order was signed that was supposed to provide a stopgap during the breakdown of negotiations between the Democrats and the White House over the entire stimulus package, which includes both the stimulus check that many Americans received a few months back, as well as the unemployment benefits and the hazard pay and other stimulus-related funding. So in terms of the money, again, that the White House approved for, they said $400 checks, but really they were $300 checks that the White House approved from the federal government for the 34 million Americans who had been basically out of work due to the stimulus or due to the pandemic. And so they were supposed to get, again, $300 weekly payments while the negotiation was underway for the renewal of their entire $600 that they were getting. Well, to date, according to the research that we have learned, no money has gone out. So there's been about 3 weeks now since those $600 checks were cut off, and 2 weeks almost since the White House signed the executive order to cut those checks back on, or at least in partiality. But in that 2 week time span, from our understanding, no money has actually gone out to any workers. If we're wrong, then we want you to leave us a comment in the comment button below, or if there's a question that you have, go check that comment button. In fact, take a moment now to also subscribe and like this program. So the second question is, so once the money does start flowing, how long will it last? Well, we said last week that the money is expected to last no more than 6 weeks. Again, because it tapped about a $400 billion fund that was managed by the Department of Homeland Security's FEMA program that was set aside for natural disasters. Well, again, we know in September that there generally are natural disasters, and so if that happens, then all that money is going to be, again, redirected for the natural disasters. Third of all, rather, how many workers are going to be left out of that money that has been approved? Because again, about 34 million Americans were depending upon that. However, the executive order required that at least that anybody receiving the money must be receiving at least $100 from state unemployment benefits. And in research that has been obtained by Abe Legal, it's been disclosed that there are about 5 to 6 million Americans who are going to be disqualified from getting even the reduced $300 a month. So these fall into two categories. First categories are first category is comprised of those workers who are essentially people who own their own businesses, or gig workers. So people who essentially are 1099 workers. That means that they are working as people who basically control their own time. So they could be either Uber drivers, or they could be doctors and lawyers, architects, people who have their own companies. And so these people whose businesses have basically, either evaporated or gone out of business or reduced in terms of the revenue that they've been taking in, they were qualified to receive some of these $600 weekly benefits. But because, again, under the stimulus money or under the executive order, they had to receive at least $100 from the state government. And the state governments, again, is a state government unemployment benefit program is a very old program that does not include monies for people who are essentially, self-employed. And so people who are self-employed who are affected by the pandemic would not get any money from the state government program. So again, there's about 5 million Americans who fall into that boat. There's another boat or bucket of Americans, about 1 million of them, whose money that they would have received from the state unemployment program. So they are a regular 9-to-5 worker, either full-time or part-time worker, but they may have made so little money in their 9-to-5 job, or their 9-to-5 job did not last long enough before the pandemic started. And so in that context, if, for example, their job didn't last more than 2 or 3 months or so, then they would not receive the full amount that they would normally ordinarily receive, which is in some states between $300 to some cases $600 weekly unemployment benefits. So those people who did not receive at least $100 a week in that category of low wage or low time workers, they are going to be cut out. And so that's the reason why, again, about 5 to 6 million Americans are going to be cut out of the unemployment benefit checks that come through the executive order. The next question is, what's going on in DC over the negotiations of getting this stimulus money back out to Americans while the Democrats this week are at their Democratic convention? Well, there was supposed to be a bipartisan panel of both moderate Democrats and Republicans, led by suburban Republican Josh Gottheimer of New Jersey, to reach some type of compromise with the White House. Well, as you may know, the so-called moderates are notorious for selling out workers. So you would probably expect that if there was some type of compromise that was reached by this group, that that would be a reduction of the $600 weekly unemployment benefits that the American workers were receiving. Now, why is this $600 weekly unemployment benefit important to all Americans? Well, the reason why is because, according to research, over 5 million jobs are dependent upon the extra spending that the $600 weekly unemployment benefit was actually generating or was pumping into the economy. So that means that 5 million people, or between about 5.4 million, so again, between 5 to 6 million people who currently had jobs, again, 3 weeks ago, are at risk at losing those jobs unless that full $600 is renewed. So again, since we have already been discussing that there are about 6 million people, about a fifth of the people who were receiving those benefits are no longer receiving those benefits. So it stands to reason that about a fifth of 5 to 6 million jobs. So again, a fifth of 5 million is essentially 1 million jobs that are at risk, and that are possibly going to essentially, basically cease to exist. Therefore, putting another million people on the unemployment benefit lines, and perhaps subjecting them to be unable to receive any of the money that is coming from this executive order, as was discussed earlier. This is outrageous, and this is not acceptable. And again, that's the reason why we have called and recommended for you, if you want to do something about it. And that's the next question. What can you do about it? The next question is that you can boycott the Democratic convention. As I mentioned before, I am a longtime Democratic operative. I have gone to every Democratic convention since 1996 when I was a young Democratic youth leader, mobilizing youth to vote across the country in order to reelect President Clinton. And sadly, I have come to the conclusion that we should not participate and tune in to the virtual conventions, even though many of us might have wanted to see, or myself perhaps wanted to see, both Bernie Sanders as well as Michelle Obama speak today. I tuned out of it because, again, it's sickening to see people engage in politics while other Americans are at risk of losing both their homes, being evicted, being having their electricity turned off. Because, as you know, not only were the unemployment benefits expired, but also the moratorium on evictions also expired. Now, again, the president's White House order said that he was going to study whether that should continue. But that's just a study, wasn't a directive. And so, again, as of my understanding, these, again, evictions are still going forward. And in fact, the White House order, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, didn't cover even all those who were subjected to evictions. Next of all, again, the utility, the disconnection notice, or the moratorium on disconnecting public utilities also expired at the beginning of August. So these are all the things that are coming into play at the same time that many millions of Americans are continuing to contract this coronavirus. My understanding that in one day, 55,000 Americans got coronavirus, and again, it's no kind of wonder when there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, students who going flocking back into college campuses that decided to reopen during this pandemic, which was absolutely foolhardy. I mean, again, we had conversations about this and with experts, and this was bound to happen. And so this is what is happening as of this time. So again, if you want to do something about it, tune out of the Democratic conventions. Send a message that it's unacceptable, that we need to have both Democrats and Republicans working together, not trying to one-up themselves. As you may know, Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, has called for Congress to come back into session on Saturday after the convention in order to not vote on stimulus money, but in order to vote on a package of funds for the post office in order for, again, the American public supposedly to have our mail-in ballots protected. Well, again, people aren't thinking about ballots. They're thinking about their survival. Again, that shows the focus. They're only focused on essentially their own jobs because, again, ballots have to do with voting and they need to have votes in order to stay in those jobs. That is absolutely ridiculous. So we need to have them focused on the things that, again, the majority of Americans are focused on, and that is their bottom line, their survival during this pandemic. And so that's the message that you can send by not tuning into the Democratic convention. And you also can consider not buying anything on Amazon. And the reason being is because Amazon, as you know, is a very influential company. It's the largest American company. And they have the ability to call both leaders in the House and the Senate and the White House to get together and to basically do the job. If they know that their income is being reduced as a result of, again, people boycotting them, and it's already being reduced because, again, people have less money to spend on Amazon just because of the lack of money that's going into the economy. I've seen it already. Going to the stores that were normally bustling, like Whole Foods, which is owned by Amazon. Just yesterday, I went in there on a Sunday, which is normally, again, a bustling day. You can't even find parking in this parking lot in downtown Silver Spring, a suburb of DC. And there was a bunch of parking, again, showing that, again, people are not spending like they were. And again, there were, no long lines as well. So again, this is basically impacting not just, again, the people who some people in Washington want to hurt, and that is the poor working class. But it's hurting because it's hurting everybody, because we're all in the working class, or except the 1% of the wealthy elite. But the 99% of us are all workers, and so we are all connected, and that's the thing that we need to basically come to terms with. So again, if you want to do something about it, I've just shared with you what you can do. If you want and you need help, if your family is facing a situation where you've had a loved one who's died, and you need to have access to their bank accounts, or you need to have access to their properties, then contact abe.legal, schedule a virtual safe appointment from your home, from the safety of your home, or if you're a business owner and your business is struggling and you need to renegotiate your credit terms with your credit card companies, or renegotiate your lease terms, or you renegotiate any type of account that you have set up. Abe Legal has some lawyers who can help you 24 hours a day. Go to abe.legal and go ahead and schedule your virtual appointment 24 hours a day. This is Talib Kareem, CEO of Abe Legal. We look forward to coming back to you tomorrow with an update on the stimulus checks, the unemployment checks, and the other monies that are needed to be sent out to help both families and businesses survive this pandemic. We look forward to coming back to you tomorrow. Take care.